Good morning. My name is he, him, and I'm a worship associate of this congregation, the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Cleveland. We acknowledge that we are gathering on the original lands of the Erie, the Haudenosaunee, and the Anishinaabe peoples, known as the Three Fires Council. We recognize the need to learn more about these complex and sometimes for the land we inhabit, and to show respect to the diverse peoples and cultures who preceded us, as well as those who gather here now. Our congregation is working to build relationship with the Lake Erie Native American Council as a way of living into these words. Welcome. We come from different places, different religions, different beliefs, different ages, and different backgrounds. Welcome. We come here for different reasons, to find personal truths, to nurture and heart and soul, to be nurtured, to explore new ideas, to find comfort, and perhaps to find the answers. We hope you will find comfort, connection, challenge, and love here. Whatever your age, young or old or somewhere in between, whoever you are, wherever you come from, know that you are welcome here. We especially welcome any guests who are worshiping with us for the first time today, either with us here physically or in the cyber world. If you're interested in learning more about who we are, we invite you to fill out one of the guest cards. Place it in the offering plate when it comes around later in the service, and we'll be able to reach back out to you to answer any questions you may have about us. If you're watching from an internet platform, you can go to our website, uucleveland.org. Send us an email, and we'll be happy to get back in touch with you. We are about to enter into sacred space. Please take a moment to silence your phones or any other electronics that beep. So I'm going to invite you to read our words of chalice lighting, which is our covenant, found on the yellow card in front of us. And our chalice lighter today is Nick. He is a fifth grader at Menlo Park Academy and well into his Hobbit era of his life. So please follow along with me. We cultivate trust, honoring boundaries, and offering compassion and care. We listen to each other deeply with curiosity and wonder. We speak for ourselves without need to defend ourselves. We create safe and brave space for healthy conflict, creativity, and fun. We reconcile through forgiving and making amends when we hurt one another.
Good morning. I'm the Reverend Randy Partain. My pronouns are they, them, and I am delighted to be with you in worship today, whether you're watching us online. I want to name that there has been a lot going on, maybe for you personally, but also for our nation and for the world. There has just been a lot. And so I invite you into just a brief micro practice this morning. We've done this before. This is something that Peter Levine taught, and it's kind of a self-hug, but it reminds us that we can contain all of the things that we are feeling. And so I invite you, if you're willing, to just take your right hand and put it under your left arm next to your heart, and then take your left hand and cross it over, and just recognize the container of your body. You can hold all that is going on within that container. All of your feelings belong and are appropriate. And this is a way that we just remind ourselves that we can show up fully present with all that we bring with us. And you can do this anytime. You don't have to wait for a Sunday morning when I invite it, but hopefully we will feel a sense of settling, a sense of grounding, a sense that we are enough to hold what we need to hold. And in that spirit of being enough, may we enter into worship together. We're going to sing Gather the Spirit, which is hymn number 347 in the gray hymnal. And before we sing together, I invite you to take a moment to greet the people around you. And if you would like, I invite you to let somebody near you know You're safe here, and you're welcome. Indeed. I'm grateful that we have gathered to celebrate this Sunday morning with one another. And this is a special Sunday because it is question box service. So if you have questions, hopefully you have put them in the question box. But just in case you came in a little late and you are still writing your question, I'm going to ask if one of the ushers would bring the box up here so that as people come forward, if they have joys or concerns, we can also have the question box here for folks to put their question in the box. The limiting factor, as I have told some people, is I'm the one answering the questions, and there's only so much that I know. So you may be disappointed. Thank you, Laura, for bringing that forward. Each week we do take time to acknowledge that we bring a lot into this space with us. And so the joys and concerns that are on our hearts, we welcome into this community. Sometimes we name them out loud and we say, this is something going on that I want to just place a stone in the water for. And if you're joining us online today, I invite you to put any joys or concerns that you want the congregation to know about in the comments. But right now we place a stone from someone's grandmother who is sick. We just place this stone of healing and care. That could be a lot of us right now. And so I invite you to come forward if you would like to acknowledge any of the joys or concerns you're carrying with you and place a stone in the water. If you have a question that you haven't put in the question box, you can come forward and put that there. You don't have to do both, but you can do both. And if you are not coming forward for either of those purposes, I invite you to take this time to either center for yourself or send love and care to those who are coming forward. We place a stone for those joys and concerns shared online today. And we acknowledge that these stones could be anything. And it may be weighing on somebody's heart in a way that it wouldn't weigh on yours. Or it may be celebrated with an exuberance that you wouldn't think to celebrate it. But these are ours now. And hopefully we will take time to learn what they mean to one another in coffee hour or in the week ahead, so that in sharing our burdens, they become lightened, and in sharing our joys, they become magnified. Amen. We have a brimming box of questions. Maybe they're all the same question. Wouldn't that be amazing? But they're probably not. I know Unitarian Universalists. I'm just impressed that people are willing to admit that they don't already have all the answers. That always impresses me. So I'm going to do my best. If we have questions left in the question box and I don't get to answer them in the service today, I will put them in a bonus track for the newsletter so that they get answered in a respectful way without saying your question doesn't matter because we didn't do it on Sunday morning. So just so you know. This is a question from Nick. And it asks, wow, what is a good way to help homeless people? We are starting just with softball questions. Wow. So, Nick, the complicated answer is that there's a whole system that has to change in order for us to really create a place where people have the shelter that they need. And for us as individuals, it might seem like there's not a lot that we can do. But I personally believe that if there are things that we do that show care, where we can look another person in the eye and acknowledge that they're a human being worthy of care and belonging, then those are good things. There was an ordinance in Houston at one point that said you were not supposed to give food to people that were busking or standing on the street corner asking for food. And I kept doing it anyway because I don't know what their resources are. I don't know their story. I cannot provide a home for them personally. I can work to create a system where they have shelter. But the thing that I could do is make an extra lunch and make sure that they had something to eat. And then at one point, there was a group of folks that were homeless that used to gather under an overpass near where I went to seminary, and I would go for lunch at one of the little restaurants there, and I would usually invite one of them to come with me, and then I realized he was ordering a lot of food, and he did not want to sit and talk to me because he was going to be taking that food back to his friends that were also hungry. And so I stopped insisting that somebody tell me their story and just provided what I could for them. It didn't make them less homeless, but it did acknowledge that they're worthy of my attention and my care. And that's a thing I think any of us could do. That's my answer. You may have other answers, so if you want to start supporting some things, we do have a ministry with Urban Hope, where we collectively, with a lot of other UU congregations, we go once a month and we provide food for people in the Cleveland area that are in need. And so that's a ministry you can get involved with here, and anybody of any age can be involved with that. We have to have families involved. We don't just take, a 9-year-old that comes in off the street and says, we want to serve folks. But we'll feed them if they come in off the street. But the Urban Hope ministry is something that anybody in the congregation can do, and so I encourage you to take part in that. Another question. This one is from Harrison. Oh, man, this is another tough one. What is your favorite part of Sunday morning service? I like all of it so much. I really love the music. I like when everybody is singing together and participating in the music, but there was a chord shift in that thing. There are some chord changes that just get me in my heart, and there was one in that little piece that is a real, it tugs on my heartstrings, so I love when the music moves me. Where are you, Harrison? Oh, okay. So I can talk to you. So I also really like when we do things where the congregation gets to provide some insight about what matters to them and what their concerns are and what their responses are to things, and you get to hear from one another, because I think when you get to hear from one another, then it helps build community and you get to know a little more about each other. And I especially love it when younger people let their voices be heard in the worship service, because I think that it's really important for us to hear from everybody. And sometimes we don't always think that some voices are important. So I really appreciate it, young people, when you get to respond to a question. I love that. So I don't know, there's a lot that I love about Sunday morning. I like after the service too, when I get to visit with people and connect. That to me is really important too. The time after the service and coffee hour is like the culmination of what we do in worship sometimes. So I don't know, that's kind of a non-answer, but that's the best I can give you. Okay, what else do we have here? This is from Bridget. Can we ever get a new playground here? I mean, Bridget, I would not say no to any possibility that might exist in the future. I want you to know I am not responsible for the playground. So I don't make that decision. That is above my pay grade. But the playground that we have is that where you are, Bridget? Okay, Bridget, yes. So the playground that we have is because a group of people in the community saw the playground that we used to have, and my understanding is they said, can we partner with you and improve on what's here? And so it was a partnership from people that came forward and said, we would like to create something with you, and so that could happen again. We did just get it painted and improved a little bit. I don't know when the last time you were over there might have been, but we do continually keep it up, and it's possible that it would be a whole new thing in the future. The future is wide open. So that's my only answer to that. A definite maybe. May Hunsaker. This is way out of my expertise, my realm of expertise, May. Do you think it's going to snow again this year? What I'm going to say, May, is that it is going to snow, I think it is going to snow again this year. I don't think it's going to be one of those stick around and keep everything beautiful for days kind of snow, but I think it's going to snow again this year. I'm not putting money on that, though, because I am just talking off the top of my head. I have no insider information. I know some ministers do have insider information about what the weather is going to do, but I am not one of those. Okay. There is another thing in here that's not a question, so I'm going to leave that here because it may need to go somewhere else. One more question, and then we're going to do some other things. And then we're going to have questions later on. This is from Ryan McGuire. Do I have any joys to be magnified or concerns to be lessened that I would like to share? I do share them sometimes, Ryan, and I name some things out loud, but I an abundance of both. One of the joys that I have right now, yesterday we gathered the Commission Lay Ministry Council that I am a part of. I'm one of the ministers on the Commission Lay Ministry Council for this area, and they had a retreat yesterday that I was apparently in charge of. I thought I was helping to plan it, but I wound up being in charge of the retreat, and it was wonderful, and it was a really beautiful day spent with some people that are really committed to this faith tradition and to their communities. And it was work, but it was the kind of work that nourishes and sustains me, so I lift that up as a big joy. I have concerns about safety that I have never had before. I have concerns about what people in the larger world are going to do because they're angry or hostile about different identities. And so that's a concern that I carry with me a lot. I was going to mention this in the announcements, but tomorrow is Trans Day of Visibility. It's an international acknowledgement of trans people and their contribution to the world. And there are a lot of colleagues and people I know who are trans that say, I feel really too visible right now. I feel like vulnerably unsafe kind of visible right now. And so safety is a high priority for them. But Trans Day of Visibility is also about, trans people have always been a part of human culture. Human experience has always included people who were non-binary or non-conforming in some way or another. And you can't just decide they don't exist, because trans people will always exist. Non-binary people are always going to exist. You might make them scared. You might give people a reason to provide shelter and comfort and care, but you can't just say they don't exist. So that's a concern and a joy. And the joy right now is bigger than the concern, so that's a good thing. We'll get to more questions. Thank you all for the brimming box of questions that we have. But for now, we'll take a pause and do some other things in our service.
Each week, we ask for financial contributions to lift up and support the work of groups and organizations that are living out our values as a congregation. Our offering partner today is the UUCC Kitchen Crew, Harry's Kitchen Crew. We all know the great work of our kitchen crew does for us, preparing delicious delicacies and well-crafted comfort foods, but they do more than just nourish our bodies. The meals they prepare provide the space we need to nurture community, to create connections, and to fill up our souls. Their work goes towards providing that vital sense of home and belonging that makes this place such a welcoming, vibrant, and trustworthy congregation. We ask now that you continue to support the important work of the kitchen crew, and I encourage you to give generously and within your means as the offering plates are passed around, or through the Cash App with the cash tag $UUCC 44122. Be sure to put today's date and kitchen crew in the memo line of the app.
Okay, Harrison, I have a new answer for your question. That was my favorite part of the service. Thank you, choir. That was tough. You did it well. Okay, a few more questions. This one is from Pat Dillard. Can we please go back to our 11 o'clock service, and can we have a congregational vote? No. From Andrew. So this actually plays on something that we already answered. When I first got here, there were some questions about the service and RE and all these kinds of things about our Sunday morning. And a group of leaders in the congregation got together and we talked about what is the most important thing about our time together on Sundays. And the place that we came back to as Unitarian Universalists, the most important thing is the way that we build community with one another. And so the time after the service is really intended to be the culmination of what we do, and the worship service is intended, ideally, in the best of weeks. The worship service prepares us for that time when we connect in various ways, in age-appropriate spaces, or when we're all together for brunch and those kinds of things. So it's intended that the worship service be early enough that people can be together afterwards and build community and do all the various things like the pretrial support trainings and the GCC listening and all of the things that we do with one another after worship. And so that's why worship is when it is, to prepare us for the other work that we do in community with each other. I know everybody doesn't agree with that timing, but that's the reason for it, just so you understand that it's not an arbitrary decision. But it was a group of congregational leaders from different programs that fed into that. It wasn't just me deciding a time, because I would probably make it earlier if it was just me. But Andrea asked, can we have more Buddhist influence in readings? And I would say yes, we certainly can. There's nothing that limits that. We don't have any policy against it. Where are you, Andrea? Andrea. Yeah, and I think that what we've been doing this year, in the last couple of years, we've been using Soul Matters, which is a Unitarian Universalist resource that gives us our themes and a whole bunch more readings than we can possibly use. And one of the things that I have offered them as feedback is most of the readings that they suggest are from living voices, which I value, but I would love for their suggestions to be more balanced by traditional scriptures. There's almost never anything from the Jewish or Christian scriptures in there either, and so we have to do a little more work as a worship team to put those things into the service. But now that you've lifted this up, it'll be on all of our minds, and so we'll be able to take that into consideration. Thanks for naming that. I know we have a lot of different theologies in our congregation, and we don't mean to minimize or leave out any of them with the readings and the materials that we use. Wow. Ruth asks, how can I raise my children in a larger world that does not share my values or the values of my family or community? And what I hear underneath that, Ruth, is the temptation to just withdraw. Where are you, Ruth? Ruth, yeah. I hear in that the temptation to just withdraw because the world seems really hostile to a lot of things that we value, and we're not really in doubt about the things we value being important. And so there's a sense of maybe we just withdraw. And I don't think that's the answer. But it also doesn't feel very safe to send children out into a world that's hostile to the things that we believe. And there are lots of faith traditions that experience that. I think Unitarian Universalists have been rather sheltered from that for a long time because we haven't necessarily felt like our young people, or we, are going to be threatened by going out and just being in the world in our day-to-day lives. Some people have done extraordinary things. I know that a lot of people, maybe some people in this congregation, were in Selma at a time when it was really hostile and it was not safe to be taking a side for justice. So we've had some of that in our past. But I think it has to be about the connection with community. And I think we have to really be mindful of what we need from one another. And I think other parents in this room might have more precise answers than I do. So that connection, I think, is the place to start. I do not have children that I am raising. I love lots of other people's children, and I enjoy spending time with them, but I don't have the responsibility of deciding how am I going to raise a child. So my answer is naive at best. But what I go back to with a lot of things is we really do need a community of support. And if there are other people doing it along with us, then it's less scary, and we share resources and ideas, and we lift each other up when we need it. So I hope that doesn't seem like a non-answer, but that's what I've got for you. Okay, we'll do one or two more, and then we've got a reading, and then we'll do one or two more. Beth McClellan says, "You have so much wisdom to impart." Really? Okay. But, okay. Do you still have a podcast on a regular basis? No. And here's what I've decided, Beth. I am not going to do a podcast again if it's just a solo thing, because it is a lot of work. And when I did one before, it was really just me and some people encouraging me, but they weren't really doing any of the practical pieces of things. But if there was somebody that said, we want to do a UUCC podcast and we want you to be a regular part of that, but we're going to do the producing and the editing and all of those little pieces, and it was a collaborative thing, I would definitely be in for it. But as a solo thing, it's a lot of time. So, yeah, that's why. And this one is from Mark Weber. What should Unitarians who say they value the worth of all people do to end the slaughter of 50,000 people in Gaza? You're not going to like this answer, Mark. I don't think we can end hostility anywhere in the world unless we are there in the communities where things are happening. To me, it feels not arrogant, but a little misplaced to speak into what another nation is doing with its military as a faith tradition. I know there are some ways that we personally can look at, what are companies that support violence in other parts of the world, and we can personally determine to divest from those things. We can speak to our city councils. I know that there has been a move recently for city councils for Cuyahoga County, I think, has divested from Israel bonds that basically fund military action against the Palestinian people. So those kinds of things, I think, are meaningful, because if you take the money away, then people are able to do less violent things with the money that we would be providing for them. So that is a thing. But people have been killing each other for a long time. And I think living in the midst of the grief of that and the pain of how we are as human beings, I think that has to come first. And I hope for a day when we are not living with this sense of competitiveness that means that we have to take somebody else's life in order to have what we think we need. Because all of that comes out of fear and anxiety that's just built into a system, a culture. I don't even know what to do about our own country right now, aside from live in the midst of it and find places of safety and support, so that when we move, we can move together and not be isolated voices. I wish I had an answer to this, though, and I really don't. I mean, the true answer, Mark, is I don't know. I don't know what we can do. I used a lot of words to say I don't know. One thing that we can do is to support this congregation so that we have a community. And I know that this month, in addition to talking about trust, we've been talking about our stewardship of this congregation. You've heard from a lot of different people that are grateful for different things. I wish that we just spent the year in gratitude and didn't even have a stewardship month, because the truth is that most of you who are members of this congregation continue to pledge every year. And the reality is that most of you who pledge, on average, your pledges increase by about 4%. And so I would love for us, when it comes time to write a budget, to say, you know, what's going to happen is our members are going to pledge money, and it's going to be about 4% more than last year, and we can budget trusting that our congregation is going to support these ministries that are meaningful. We are not at that point yet where we just spend the year in gratitude about that, and so I want to encourage you. I know a lot of you have already done this. We've got a lot of people's pledges are already in, but because of the timeline of our budgeting, it's important for our finance committee to know with some confidence that the budget that they are preparing is reasonable based on the funds that you have committed, that you have pledged. And so if you get your pledge in soon, like, you know, today or tomorrow, then our budgeting process will have clarity to it, and we'll be able to say, this budget makes sense based on the commitment that the people in the congregation have made toward the ministries of the year ahead. David, did you want to say any more about that, fresh back from Japan?
I think you just covered it.
Okay. Wow. Now that was my favorite part of the service. So I will invite us to have a reading on trust then.
Growing Trust by Rosemary Watola Tomer. Now, since I've tasted trust in life, why would I ever slip again into armor? The armor of an insincere smile sometimes as dangerous as the armor of a sword. Why would I ever try to know what to say, how to act, how to plan, when, with zero effort on my own, life itself will move through me, will rise up in me to meet itself? Of course, like the child I am, I forget this trust. I slip back into habit, believe I need protection, fear I am isolated. But I have fallen in love with life at a time when that might seem impossible. And this strange fact alone seems enough to remind me to ditch the armor, to cast wide my arms, to unsheath my heart and say, yes, life, I trust you. I serve you. Why would I not trust life? It would be like a seed evading the rain, like a sunflower just unfurling, trying to avoid the sun.
We've been talking about trust for this whole month, and I told somebody what we were doing today with this question box service, and they said, oh, that sounds really high risk. And I said, well, that's how I show trust for the people in this community. And some of you have some big questions that I just don't have answers to. And so I will acknowledge that. But Justin Hunsaker asks a joke question, but then there's another question. How are you feeling about the future facilities work so far? It's early still, but I'm feeling pretty good about it. I don't think that I'm sharing anything out of turn here, but the congregation has really provided a lot of feedback about what you want from our space and what you want from this community. And I think there are going to be an array of options that we're presented with. I'm pretty confident that if we do anything beyond just put Band-Aids on stuff, we're going to be looking at a capital campaign, but I trust this congregation to hold a capital campaign for the things that we care about. The Future Facilities Task Force, for those of you that are not aware, has been working this entire year to explore what we need from our building and what our building needs from us and what we might do to renovate it. I think there was at one point a plan that maybe we might just tear it to the ground and build something new. Not a lot of people have been really enthusiastic about that, and the number that I heard was, and we were talking about it from a sustainability standpoint, and the number that I heard was if we tore this building down, it would take around 80 years for us to get back to baseline from the environmental damage done from tearing the place down. So that gave me pause a little bit about that. But this place is sacred to a lot of people here, and you've named what you need from it, and you've named what you would like to see different about it. And so I love that the conversation is happening, and I love the way that you all have engaged in it. So that's how I'm feeling about it. I'm feeling really hopeful and pretty positive. That's a stone in the water for me, Ryan. Oh, this doesn't have a name with it. I can't ask a follow-up. That's okay. If we get back to it, then maybe I'll add that to the bonus track. This one is from Judith Holder. Please speak a bit about the Minister's Discretionary Fund. Okay. The Minister's Discretionary Fund is money that you provide that I have the discretion to spend for needs in the community. And usually the only time that we take a collection for that is on Christmas Eve. And I try to be very mindful that, there's a lot of months between Christmas Eve and Christmas Eve. And so when I get a request for money, I try to ask a few questions to ensure that it's going to be something that the congregation can be proud of supporting. But it also preserves people's confidentiality if they're experiencing some kind of hardship. And it also allows us to meet the needs of people that we don't know, that we wouldn't know about their needs. So one of the questions that I usually ask is this just a temporary need? Is there a way to sustain things moving forward? Because if somebody needs help with rent, for example, and they don't have a plan to pay rent next month, then I'm concerned that we're not in a position to pay their rent every month. And so I want to direct them toward other agencies that are going to be able to help them. But if somebody needs a little refrigerator to keep their medicine in because they're not buying food, because they need their refrigerator they have for medicine, and I hear about it through a social worker and they ask, can we do, those kinds of things are easy yeses because the money is provided by the congregation. It's an immediate need that's not going to be ongoing, and there's some kind of validation that a social worker is involved in the situation. Sometimes people just want a food card or food and gas to be able to do things, and I have told people at a certain point, we can't continue giving you and your family this support. You need to find some other means. Can I connect you in various ways? So we do some of those smaller things with the Minister's Discretionary Fund as well. But this past quarter, it's been the refrigerator. We've helped with relocation expenses for somebody. And we've helped somebody who is still recovering from a stroke get rent paid, and they did have a plan to move forward beyond that, and they have some other places of support, and so it was kind of a one-time thing. And then we helped with a utility bill that also was kind of somebody had lost their job, had new prospects, needed a utility bill paid, and then we took care of that. So it's those kinds of things. Is that helpful? Oh, if you want to add more money into that, there are needs in our community. I don't hear about all of them, but when people come to me, I do take a look at what's available, and I have in my mind a limit for what we can really give to any given family over the course of a year, and so I do cap what we do with that. But yeah, if there's a way that you want to meet the needs of people in our community that you don't see face to face, that is a way that you can do it, is by providing to the Minister's Discretionary Fund. There are sometimes people that I turn away just because I'm concerned that their need is too great, And if there's a lot of resources there, then I might decide differently about some things that come across my desk. Yeah. Here's another one with no name, but it's a tough one. We might actually do that. Okay. There's a lot of these that are going to just be in bonus track. Maybe this is a month of bonus tracks. I'm going to do these two. The other ones I'm sure are really, really fantastic, but this one's a great one for a question box service. This is from a Methodist relative. How do Unitarian Universalists handle evil? Because this person says that we can all be evil given the chance. And so what I would say, again, all of these are just, I'm speaking for me. I'm not speaking for all Unitarian Universalists when I say any of this. I'm not speaking for everybody in this room when I say any of this. But for me, I don't really believe people can be evil. I believe that actions can cause harm, but I don't even use the word evil all that much anymore. And I believe that people cause harm because they are afraid of something, and they are afraid enough that they let go of the things that they say they value. And we do that too. So yeah, all of us can cause harm in moments when we are so anxious about something that we stop caring about our values and just care about feeling safe. And sometimes what makes us feel safe is trying to control other people or situations. And sometimes what makes us feel safe is diminishing somebody else's humanity. And that's a thing that we do. As Unitarian Universalists, we have talked about centering love, and we define that as a liberating love. Liberating being something that we all experience together. One person doesn't get liberated while another person remains oppressed. That's not how liberation works. And so we speak about liberating love being expressed in these values of transformation and equity and justice, generosity on all kinds of different levels, and pluralism, which means that we all get to exist and have our own beliefs and our own ideas, and we don't threaten each other just because we believe something different. And I left one out. Interdependence, my favorite one. Interdependence, meaning that everything we do matters because we're all connected with everything. And so we handle the possibility of evil, the possibility of doing harm, when we have those moments when we set our values aside, by calling ourselves back and saying, oh, right, I believe in the interdependence of things. I want to honor that, and therefore the way that I behave matters. And we do that in covenant with one another because we all have the potential to go off the rails at some point. And so we hold one another mutually accountable so that when we see somebody causing harm in our community or out in the world, or we can hold one another accountable and say, you know, we had this mutual promise and it seems like you're veering off in this other direction. What's happening? Is there a concern that I can help alleviate? Is there a way that I can invite you back? So that's my answer for how Unitarian Universalists handle evil. We can't hold people accountable that haven't invited us to hold them accountable, but we can still recognize their inherent worth and dignity and that they are terrified of something even when they are looking really scary. I believe that our current administration is filled with terror about its own validity, its own significance, its own worthiness, and that over time looks like doing a lot of evil. And this last one is more personal. It says, I've been married for 5 years, and my mother-in-law is facing health concerns. How do I support my husband? Because they don't have a manual for that. That's true, they don't. So one thing that I think is important is to recognize that caregivers or people who are looking at a situation where they're going to be caregivers often neglect their own care. And so supporting someone who's a caregiver might look like ensuring that they get the time and the care that they need. But then that also puts us in the position of being a caregiver, so we need to make sure that we're caring and nurturing for ourselves. So the balance, And I say this as somebody with a partner who has a mother with a lot of serious health concerns. One of the things that you balance is to let a person set their own boundaries. My spouse does things that I wouldn't do for family and doesn't do some other things that I might do. And so that's the other person's boundaries to set. And I think that's important for me. That's what I would put in the manual if I were writing a manual. But the other thing is that all of us need probably a little more time of nourishing our own spirits than we give ourselves. And we're doing a lot of things, whether it's with family members or whether it's out in the world, whether it's for one cause or another. We have to be centered and grounded ourselves if that work is going to be sustainable. And so for me, that's what a family might do, is to find ways to center and ground together, to watch out for one another's well-being and care, to name it when somebody looks like they're burning themselves out or getting a little spicy because they really don't have the spoons to deal with the things that they're being asked to deal with. And I think that also looks like a liberating love within the context of a family, that it looks like our values brought down to the scale of what it looks like in a small community of 3 or 4 people. So I've answered a lot more questions than I intended to, and I even put a clock up here so that I wouldn't do this. But we're going to sing together, and I don't have the number. What is it? 1020 in the teal hymnal, Wo Ya Ya. I invite you to rise and body or spirit as we raise our voices together. I appreciate that you did not pull any punches, and I hope that I was trustworthy with your questions. I will continue to answer them in the bonus tracks. I haven't looked at them, obviously, ahead of time, so I don't know how easy it will be to answer some of them. If you left your name on it, then I might ask a clarifying question before I put something in the newsletter. But I want to let you know about a couple of things happening, most of them today. But tomorrow, the You Use Together group is going to get together at 7 p.m. We had a really fantastic workshop last Saturday here with the whole region, and they're going to follow up on that with the You Use Together group. It's looking at how love and accountability are in relationship with each other as we explore our values. Lori Albright, right there in the orange shirt, can get you the Zoom link if you want to participate in that. That's open to everybody, right? Yes, okay. And today, downstairs, we're a part of a group of congregations called Greater Cleveland Congregations, and they engage in a lot of justice efforts in our community that, you know, we're an interspiritual group. And so Greater Cleveland Congregations is seeking our input, and you can join fellow congregants today downstairs in the fellowship hall for a listening session with the GCC core team. This is an opportunity, maybe about half an hour, to brainstorm and let the leadership of GCC know what ideas and issues are important to you in effectively standing up for democracy. So that is an opportunity for us to catalyze some good trouble. And also, our theme for this month has been trust. Our theme for next month is the practice of joyfulness. And so the worship team has in mind a visual anchor of eggs as a symbol of joyfulness, because eggs have been a powerful symbol of creation and rebirth and new beginnings across many cultures for thousands of years. So we're going to have some wooden eggs downstairs that you will get to design with paints and drawings and kind words, and you can leave them around the building for our month-long intergenerational egg hunt. You can doodle and draw on the eggs while you are participating in the listening session, so you don't have to choose between them, or you can sit in a separate place at your choosing, and then you'll have chances in the coming weeks as well to do the same. Thank you for investing your trust in this community and in one another and in me. As we go forth from this place, may we seek more ways to think about the questions that we are answering for one another and think about the questions that we don't have answers to. I probably could have been more honest about the questions that I just don't have an answer to today. I felt compelled to give an answer a couple of times, I think, and I think many of us may feel that way sometimes. So may we be willing to say, I don't know, and may we be willing to answer honestly the things that we can from a position of our values and care for one another. Go with peace and courage.
Nick, would you like to come back up, Nick? Ask you to join with me in the words for extinguishing the chalice, found on the yellow card in your pew. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
So I'm going to model a little trust. My original plan was I was going to teach you the words to this song. I'm not going to do that, right? I invite you to